It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering paranormal.
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one but tomorrow.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cryptid Campfire. My name is Alex Daikaiju. To the left of me,
Jasmine with.
and across from me, eating Muddy Buddies, is
Inaccurate.
across from me, finishing the Muddy Buddies.
I actually finished.
Ooh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
Eli Watson, and I
Hey.
have finished the Muddy Buddies.
Heck yeah, and that's the end of the show. Thank you for listening. Hey, everybody. If you're a long-time listener, we want to welcome you back. And if you're a new-time listener, we would like to say hello. Welcome to Cryptid Campfire, where we get together, do some independent research on some cryptids and weird paranormal things, and kind of sit around the campfire and talk about what we found. And today's topic is fairies.
Woo!
And how should we start this one off? 'Cause
Well,
I got some weird stuff.
Jasmine's the one who recommended fairies.
I was the one who recommended
Oh.
fairies, but someone else recommended that I recommend fairies, and I was
Whoa.
like, yes, let's do
The
it.
web of lies goes too deep.
It's not a web of
It's a
lies.
conspiracy.
But I will say this, when I was told, hey, you should talk about fairies, I was like, you know what? I remember thinking I saw a fairy once. I know now, on this day in the present time,
What did
that
it look like?
what I saw was
How many have you seen?
it was a grasshopper.
Oh.
Which look
With a
very
human
much.
face?
Well, no, I saw it from the back. I was walking down the sidewalk in front of my house in Ohio when this thing leapt out of a rose bush and flew like in front of me and then like away from me. And it just straight up looked like a humanoid with wings, and I was like panicked for a minute. I was like, "What the heck was that? I just saw a fairy! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh
Your
my
world
gosh!"
was collapsing.
And then, like, my brain realized, you know what? That was probably just a grasshopper. Because grasshoppers look pretty freaky when they, like, take off. Like, they have
They
really
spread
long
their legs apart
they
and
have
they-
really big wings.
Yeah.
So it was a grasshopper.
I see.
But I also did decorate my room with fairies when I was a kid. My dad and I painted painted my bedroom like a garden, and we painted a little white picket fence, and then we took this fairy garden wallpaper and cut the fairies and flowers and stuff out of it and like pasted it on my wall. Isn't that a cute story?
Yeah, and we're gonna redecorate the room we're recording exactly like it.
I'm down.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
We get started tonight.
All right.
So a fairy is defined as a mythical being of folklore and romance, usually having small human form and magic powers. They have a strong liking for trickery, and at other times the word fairy has been used to describe other magical creatures like goblins and gnomes and stuff.
Mhm.
Gnomes.
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 So
Gnomeo.
comes from European
The silent G.
folklore. But there's no single origin, I guess. It's like a bunch of different sources and different folk beliefs.
Yeah.
It's a big old
Yeah, because they're real.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, like, every culture has some tradition or belief in the
About little
existence of,
people.
like, little people.
Yeah, that's true.
the wee people.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because yeah, like you said, it's European, kind of crossed over the idea, I think, of like winged creatures. What's crazy is I was looking it up and I found, actually, I have this book as my source, as I like to cite today. It's called The Book of Fairies by Francis Melville. A guide to the world of elves, pixies, goblins, and other magic spirits.
And where did you come across this book? Is this something that you just had, or is this something you sought out for the podcast?
It was actually, my wife had it.
Oh.
And she was like, hey, you're doing a podcast about fairies. She had a couple books. This one had a lot of pictures, so I liked it. Because the other one had way too many text. And what's interesting is it gives a brief description of like what fairies might be. And it says a common belief in Christianity, Islam, and I guess even some Jewish traditions believe little people are like of angels,
Mm-hmm.
and especially angels who rebelled against God when they were led by Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess when they were cast out by the archangel Michael, they fell to earth.
Mm-hmm.
And some beliefs say that like the main angels who rebelled, they're the ones who fell to hell with the devil, while the lesser angels, which are now fairies, kind of got put in limbo, which is earth for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read
Whoa.
something similar about how I didn't really pay attention to the total details of the story, but basically it was very similar to what you just said. There were angelic creatures, but they weren't good enough to be in heaven and they weren't bad enough to be in hell,
Yeah.
so they ended up on earth instead in the middle.
Yeah, it's crazy because I had never heard
Mm-mm.
of that origin story,
No, me neither.
so that was pretty wild. And
Um,
if you think of the 1990s movie Ferngully about fairies, think of them as angels that were cast out of hell, out of heaven, and it gives that movie a whole new
huh.
kind of spin.
Well, I don't know if you guys. Sorry, it's gonna come up several times throughout my stuff, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna introduce it now. I found immediately as I typed in fairies real on Google, I went down this immediate wormhole that ended me in Aleister Crowley somehow.
Yeah?
But it has nothing to do with Aleister Crowley. It's a book called The Secret Commonwealth by Robert Kirk. It's from like the 1600s, I believe, and it wasn't even printed till 100 years after the author had died. And like now it's been reprinted and translated and stuff like that. But basically it's like an old English book that talks about like fairies and goblins and gnomes and stuff like that, but like in a factual sense.
Oh, okay.
So like there's a lot of weird things, and
There's,
he
like
says
rules and hierarchies and stuff.
yeah, and he says like, well, fairies live underground.
Yep.
Some of them have a ring that can make them go invisible.
Oh.
And some people attribute this as inspiration for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, plagiarism.
Yeah.
We're calling you out, Tolkien.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's going to come up more. But there's one interesting rule in there that I want to talk about now that I don't know if you guys got. But if you see a fairy, you have to die in 3 days.
You have to?
Didn't read
Yeah.
that.
Wait, like...
Like, it will kill you within 3 days.
Oh.
Now, see, I read that humans can marry fairies.
Whoa!
What?
Whoa!
Well, that, I mean, I guess that is real death. Marriage.
Says the married man.
I know. Yes. Okay, so wait, so yeah, the way you said it is, you see a fairy, you have to die. It made it seem like
Yeah,
you
well,
have
no,
to kill yourself in 3 days.
No, it's basically like this guy said he heard from like somebody who knew somebody who saw a fairy, and as soon as he saw it, realized that he was gonna die within 3 days, and eventually he did.
Hey, that's like going way back, the Mongolian death worm.
Yeah.
Okay.
How it's like if you see it and it bites you, you die.
Oh yeah.
But then we were like, well, what if it was just like a venomous snake that bit him,
Yeah.
and you're in the middle of the desert, so like the guy dies from like, you know, exposure and stuff, and they're like, oh, he got bit, it must kill you.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. They heard from a guy who heard from a guy who saw a fairy.
Yeah.
It's crazy because, I mean, you think of fairies, you think of fairy tales and, you know, child-friendly stories and fantasy and Tinkerbell and all this stuff, but
Don't believe it.
But yeah, like
don't
no,
believe the
really,
hype.
'cause
Don't-
the fairies of the past were like dangerous, powerful beings. I mean, they would literally like they would kidnap kids. I read about
Yeah.
and take them to the under. Yeah,
Oh.
Eli's face.
Oh.
Changelings,
Changelings.
yeah.
Yeah, the changeling. They'd take the kids. But before modern medicine, fairies were also blamed for sickness like tuberculosis and birth deformities. Like fairies were not a good thing. I mean, they could be like not evil, but they were mostly evil.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like kind of looking through. Well, like each culture has like different ways they perceive fairies, and sometimes they're kind of tricksters. Sometimes they're just like, you know, little monsters that like will like kill your crops and like eat your pets, and it's all it runs the gambit of being like, especially like fairies is like I guess it's like gargoyles. It's like that catch-all
It's a
term
catch-all
of
term.
like you're saying like gnomes and goblins and gremlins and all kinds of weird ass stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy too. When I was looking up fairies, another, I guess, little origin that was interesting is that they might be former, like, gods and deities that have,
Okay.
like, lost power and influence and have, like, shrunk down
Interesting.
Whoa.
to show, like, that they've lost their influence and now they're just kind of wandering around.
Giving people presents?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or kidnapping children.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
Or
did
that
you
they're-
guys get the ones where people would, like, leave gifts for the fairies?
Mm-mm.
Like travelers coming home from, like, a long journey, they would, like, their families would put out gifts outside, like, food and stuff, like, hoping that the fairies would take it and then provide, like, safe passage.
Oh, okay.
And if you didn't, like, then they would
They
probably
were
kill
gonna
you.
F your,
Hmm.
your
And
ass
then,
up.
and even, I got this one that even if you said the word fairy, that could invoke their wrath.
Oh.
So, like,
Well, we're
that,
in trouble.
Yeah. And
well-
up next on the 7 words you can't say in the mythological sense.
well, that's why they're, like, referred to as the gentle folk or the good people.
The
Or
wee
the wee
people.
people.
So, like,
Yeah.
so, like, you don't say fairy.
The hidden people was also one.
Yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah, that's wild.
And they didn't like to mention them by name, and so they called them other names. Yeah, basically what you just said. I was just repeating.
You talk
Yeah.
ish behind their backs.
It also says that, so going with this catch-all term discussion, some other theories about the fairies, like they're like ghosts, they can be spirits of the dead.
Yeah.
We talked about fallen angels, and some are they're just creatures. Some can fly, and then some can appear and disappear at will, like you mentioned earlier, I think, about the disappearing.
With their special rings.
Oh, yeah. And,
I've got, did you guys read about Ronald Hutton at all? Houghton?
No.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I should do better research on how to pronounce things. Like, go to YouTube and type in the person's name and hear how it's actually pronounced instead of just reading it. Anyways, he is an English historian who specializes in the study of early modern Britain, British folklore, pre-Christian religion, and contemporary paganism. And he has a plethora of sources and research history that he put together to come up with some elements of key fairy lore features. So his sources come from laymen, which is apparently some famous person who wrote some interesting things in the year 1200.
layman?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
you're
think,
sure
or it's
that's
it's
like the
spelled,
common folk?
It's spelled
Yeah, is it like
Laymon. I will say, this was so all over the place
Yeah.
that I didn't deep dive every source
For
because
sure.
I wouldn't have survived.
Layman's Guide to Fairies.
Yeah, and then there was chronicles written by Ralph of Coggeshall, something, I don't know.
Coggeshall, yeah.
William of Newbury, and then Gerald of Wales. It's just there's a lot of sources.
A lot
is
of
what I'm trying to
weirdos.
say. He's done his research, is what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
okay.
say. But these key points are that the fairies inhabit a parallel world, so the underground realm that we mentioned earlier, which has neither a sun nor moon, but is just always dimly luminous, like a torchlight. They do have the ability to enter our world and steal our children, also previously mentioned. There are different portals around the earth that you can enter into the fairyland from, such as
Point Pleasant.
different riverbanks and caves and cliffs. And this is where the evilness or the goodness can come in, because they do have the ability to bless or torment humans. According to one of these historians, King Arthur was blessed by elves at his birth.
Whoa.
So yeah, but then another tale tells of a fairy horn that was stolen by a hunter, and then he had bad luck for the rest of his life and was executed for his theft.
Oh, damn.
So
Yeah.
that's a fun fact. They also may live in human homes. And finally, I don't know why I think this is interesting, they're apparently always green in color. So this
Always?
image that we have of like blue and pink and purple fairies, apparently
it's
not
all
true
fake
according to the
news.
history.
Fake news.
They're the green fairy. They're absinthe.
Okay.
Because absinthe is called the green fairy.
I
'Cause
see.
it makes you see stuff. Maybe all these guys are just drunk off absinthe.
I don't know.
They're like, I can tell you
I don't
everything
know.
about the fairies.
I wish I could have gone into more specific research on each of these sources, like looked each
Yeah,
of them up
there's-
specifically, but I didn't, and I didn't want to. But now you know.
Now you know all these weirdos. These weird names. Yeah, it's interesting because
Now you know all these weird names.
weird names that brought to you only by Cryptid Campfire.
Medieval times and things like that.
Yeah, it said that they inhabit like the fourth dimension and that they are free of time and space, possibly.
Yeah.
Especially because they're immortal.
They're immortal?
Yeah, I guess.
This
Is
just
that
keeps
now?
getting
See,
better,
that's not what I read. I read that they do not have souls and that when they perish, they're dead. That's
Like-
the end for them.
Like redheads.
Or
If
they
you
like
want to take it back that many years,
Yeah.
sure.
are they immortal in the sense of like elves in Lord of the Rings to where like they don't die from age, but like if you kill them, they die?
Maybe.
Like-
A lot of the sources were like, well, I mean, I guess too, because it's like, I mean, a bunch of people in medieval times seeing these like weird little things run around.
Yeah.
Like, I guess they're immortal because they don't seem to stop. It's funny because, so it said they inhabit like a different world, like Jasmine said, like in the earth, or maybe separated by water, and because there's the Celtic fairy realm is called the Tir na Noir, which is called the land of the ever young, which I think is where that immortal idea comes from. But then the Greek had their own idea of what the fairy world was, and it was Hesperides, which translates to the Blessed Isles.
I'm glad I didn't find the words you're saying.
Whoa,
I just
this
would
is-
have excluded
This sounds
them.
so cool.
Yeah,
It does.
I'm with it.
And so
with
and that the idea that they come from a far off land that's like
Right.
just
Sea
across
people?
the sea. Well,
Sea
Sea
people?
people? Sea people?
if
Oh
anyone,
my gosh, are fairies the sea people?
I was gonna.
Did the fairies kill the Bronze Age?
It
Oh
makes
my god!
sense. You know what? It totally makes sense because the Bronze Age of humankind was at the height of like, reading, writing, technology at the time.
Right.
The fairies were getting nervous.
Mhm.
They're like, these humans, they're acting the fool right now.
Yeah.
We gotta silence them.
Yeah.
So the fairies showed up and took out Egypt.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But-
We
but-
cracked the case.
But the reason why they haven't come back is because we have Friedrich Nietzsche,
Yeah.
and he killed God.
Yeah.
What?
One punch, no lie. And you mentioned. Oh yes, hello. Are we being visited by a ghostly apparition?
Eli heard a sound off. I almost said off camera,
Yeah.
but we don't have cameras.
Stage left.
But he just looked sharply to his right, and his facial expression changed so drastically, like he was super mad about something. There's a crying
I
child
just
next
want to
door.
make sure it's not my grandpa. So
I was gonna say, there's a baby crying. He's being taken by the fairies as we speak.
Oh,
being
man.
Placed by a changeling.
oh no.
Yeah, they even show up in the Arthurian legend, like Jasmine mentioned, with King Arthur, I guess, being visited as a baby by goblins. You said.
Yes, I think so.
And I guess they come from the Isle of Avalon, which I think is also elves. Which I think also
Avalon.
is maybe where the
Avalon Apartments.
Yeah, down
Good
on
one.
Sepulveda.
Good one.
Oh, don't you know?
Oops.
But yeah, you know what I was looking into was Norse mythology,
Okay.
because
Okay.
they got some rad fairies.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, this is so crazy. I didn't know all this.
I feel like you're enjoying this a lot.
I am.
This
is
is
amazing.
like if you're into fantasy
I
and
bet
like
it's a good
all that
topic.
cool dope shit. Like this episode's all kinds of cool stuff.
Okay.
But Norse mythology has two types of fairies.
Okay.
There's the Doka Klafa, which is the dark elves,
Okay.
and
Makes sense.
La Josa Lefe, which is the light elves.
fairies. Or light
Okay,
elves. Okay.
alright.
I'm
And-
catching on.
So I'm gonna call them the Doka, for short, for the dark elves. They live in the earth, and
Bro.
they are apparently swarthy, which I didn't know what that meant.
Swarthy?
Yeah, I had to look it up. It means dark skinned, I guess.
I have,
Whoa!
to, I have to do
So-
a lot of Googling. Every word and every sentence is like a sophisticated word that I've never
Yeah.
heard before, so I have to go to the dictionary and be like, what does this mean? And then replace it with a different
Uh,
word.
Well, I mean, I literally read an old English book, so
Yeah.
all the F's in that book are actually S's.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that equates.
Yeah, I
but
don't know what this means. But I guess they're swarthy, which I always thought meant like a rough and rumble, like pirate type. But I guess it means dark skinned. So already this mythology is racist and very problematic.
Okay.
But the Josa, as the light elves, they live in Alfheimr, which translates to Elfland.
Okay.
And I guess that's just like a pretty meadow area where it's always sunny and shiny.
Sounds nice.
And so the light elves, they're kind of boring because I guess they're just like they're bright as the sun. And they're like super cool and they don't really do anything. But the Doka are where it's at.
Okay.
Because the Doka start life as maggots.
Oh my gosh, yes. I saw pictures of this, but I was like, this is too much for me. And I
Yeah.
went to a different topic.
I was like, this is
How did
awesome.
you guys find all this?
So
Google is an amazing thing.
So in Norse mythology, there's Ymir, or I guess it's Ymir, or Auglamir, and it's the first being ever created.
Okay.
It's a hermaphrodite giant
Okay.
that was created when drops of water from the ice of Nephilim, which is like the tallest mountain, fell into the heat of Muspelheim, which is like the underground, and that like the water drops created this giant, and this giant is the father / mother of all giants. Males and females would sprout from the armpits.
Whoa.
And I guess Ymir produced a 6-headed son from his or her legs.
Okay.
Like, this is wild.
Okay.
And
This is way more advanced than the chupacabra.
yeah. And then I guess at some point Odin killed him / her with his brothers.
Okay.
And there was so much blood from the giant that it flooded the land for a while.
Whoa.
And so the body's just been laying there. And so maggots came in. And the maggots are like the dark fairies. They start off as maggots, and then they cocoon themselves, and then out pop the Doka. And they're like ghastly white, red-eyed, like zombie elves that like wear armor, and I guess they fight the light elves, and they rip them to pieces, and they eat them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This is violent.
It's awesome.
It's
Like I found a little diagram of like a maggot that the cocoon like a butterfly for some reason.
Whoa.
And then it pops out this like little gnarly fairy.
Whoa.
But yeah, it's pretty metal. Like Norse mythology is pretty rad.
Okay.
But that's like the 2 types of fairies they have.
That's wild.
That
Yeah.
was a lot.
And
¿Qué más?
¿Qué más?
¿Qué más?
And I guess some people can see fairies if you're born with the sight.
Oh yeah, second sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reference that in the Secret Commonwealth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess if you have the sight, you're also prone to like clairvoyant visions and psychic phenomenon, and you can see the fairies running around.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I was studying Norse mythology, and it was rad.
Okay, so I'm gonna get to
What you got?
photographic evidence.
Oh, so soon?
Just the one? Or do you have multiple?
I have two.
2 photos.
No, I have many multiples of photos,
Yeah.
but I have 2 different
sources?
sources. Yeah.
Are we going across the pond?
We are.
Jolly old England?
We're going to what are they called? The Cottingling Fairies.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 photos taken by Elsie Wright and Frances Griffiths, when Elsie was 16 and Frances was 9, and the photos were taken in 1917.
Mm.
And at first, I'll admit, they got me. I was like, whoa, that's pretty lit.
Yeah. They look good. We'll throw them up on the Instagram.
Yeah, I'll put them up there. So I guess the coolest part is that like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle got involved.
Yeah.
He was the one who kind of like promoted them. So I guess the backstory of this is like these 2 girls, they would play by this creek. Their mom would get mad, but they said they went down to the creek because they saw fairies down there. The mom was like, "Oh yeah, prove it."
Oi, governor, prove that you got them fairies.
It wasn't just that they went down to the creek. Didn't she like fall in the creek and like
No, they
her
would just
mom
get
got
muddy
mad
and
or-
stuff
yeah,
playing
okay.
down there.
dude.
Yeah, as little kids do,
Like,
as
the
I did.
The worst thing for like turn of the century British people was having muddy feet.
Yeah. And so like basically they took their dad's camera and they took photos of fairies.
Mm-hmm.
And like their mom was convinced and their dad was like, these are just cardboard cutouts. Right? Which is funny enough because that's ended up what it ended up being.
Spoiler.
Sorry.
Ruined.
Okay. Whatever. But what was interesting is like these photos like went like viral by
Yeah.
1917 standards, because like Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, he used the pictures to illustrate an article on fairies
Mhm.
that he was writing at the time.
And he was like a hardcore like paranormal investigator
Yeah.
back in the day too, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, and so like people were like, "Whoa, is it real? Is it fake?" And both of the girls came out and said that it was fake in 1983. Said it was cardboard cutouts.
Well, it's
So-
crazy too because they did the photos and then they kind of like moved away, got married, started lives, and someone tracked them down. At least one of them in like maybe the late 50s, early 60s.
Mhm.
And they were like, "So, tell us about these photos." And they're like, "Well, they might not be real fairies, but they're definitely photographs of my imagination coming to life."
Yeah.
They're like, "What does that mean?" She's like, "Well, you ever hear of a tulpas?"
More like she drew them on cardboard.
I mean, they
and-
look good though.
They
For
look really
like,
good.
for like a 16-year-old in turn of the century London. Like she's like, I guess they're just watercolor, but they look pretty dope.
I
They-
do not remember which girl it was, but I read an interview where one of them was like, this was supposed to be a 3-hour-long joke, and it turned into this, like, decades-long debacle.
Yeah. And they roped in Sir Arthur Conan O'Doyle.
Yeah. They said that they the cardboard cutouts that they copied the drawings from this book called
Yeah.
Princess Mary's Gift Book, and on Wikipedia they actually have the side-by-side
Yeah.
comparisons. It's pretty much the same thing.
I think my favorite criticism was people were like, "Wow, those fairies look pretty good, but they have such stylish hair for dirty little pixies that run around in the mud." People were like the research I was, everyone was caught up with like the style of the hair that the pixies were wearing,
That's funny.
which was pretty great.
Although here's what's really interesting is because there's 5 photos, right?
Mm.
2 were taken first.
There's
and-
5? I thought there was only 2.
No, there's 2 first, and then like
Oh,
I think
they
it was
did more?
a couple
Yeah,
months later
they-
they did 3 more.
They
For funsies?
well, so from what I can tell, they did the 2 photos for funsies, for snits and giggles.
Mm-hmm.
3-hour-long joke turned into a debacle.
Mm-hmm.
Their dad was like, I don't know if this is real. I think I got some whippersnappers. But they were so I think Arthur Conan Doyle gave them a camera, and I think like either he or someone else wanted to go with them to the creek,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, the fairies don't come out for anyone else. It's just us.
Mhm.
Like we've taken our mom down. They don't come out. So like, okay, fine. Take this photo, and I think the guy had like rigged the photo to be like, you can't tamper with it. Like
Yeah.
you can only take the photos as is.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took the photos, and they came back, and they were like, "Oh, you got more pictures of the fairies. This is crazy." Like,
Yeah.
Because
this is
technically the
insane.
photo's not altered. I mean,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not-
that's the
it's
thing
not the
is they had
picture.
people like blow them up and be like, "Well, I don't see like any, old timey ways of messing with the photo. I don't see
Right.
it like painted on." They're like, "There's a fairy in the frame with the girl. Like,
Yeah.
there's no trickery going on." And then, so everyone was like, "Well, they're authentically real photos."
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Just
what-
the subject material is cardboard.
what's interesting though about the last photo is that the 2 girls disagree on it
Oh yeah.
because one of them says that it's faked and the other one says that it's real.
And then they both claim that they took it.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
The 5th and final photo.
They're like, is it the one where they're in like, it's like 3 fairies
See,
and
I only
shrubs?
saw 2.
Yeah, they're
photos.
in shrubs.
The one with the girl with her hand on her.
Just be careful with
The one with the
boy.
girl on her. She has her hand on her face, and the fairies are like in front of her.
Mm.
And then the one where the other girl's like standing by a tree in the fairy.
No,
is right
there's
there.
a couple more. But they say that that final photo, it looks like it's double exposed.
Mm.
So both girls could have taken it, but it's on the same frame of film.
Yeah.
So like
And that could come from the camera of the guy trying to make it to where you can't like,
right.
futz
So
with it.
that's what I think happened. I think it's a double exposure and it
Mm.
looks tight.
Yeah.
It looks really good.
Yeah, it'd be a cool like album cover.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
I wish I made music.
Oh wait, you do. You did the intro for Cryptid Campfire. Plug
Forgot.
right there. I'll tell you what. But yeah, man. So we have that instance of people taking photos of fairies.
Mhm. Did you find them, Jasmine?
I'm looking at them. Is this the one you guys are talking about?
Yeah, that's the 5th one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that I think is double exposed because it's like they're see-through.
Yeah.
That's what I think is like.
Gotcha.
And I'll put those up on the Instagram.
Yeah, we'll throw those up there.
The other ones though that I found that I've known about for years, and the ones that I think are like legit pictures,
Mm-hmm.
are the ones from Isetti Ranch. And just a little background on Isetti Ranch, because not everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
But Isetti Ranch, ECETI, basically it stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. There's like tons of UFO sightings there.
Oh.
Like it's a
okay.
hot spot for UFO sightings.
Yeah.
People say they've seen like basically werewolves there and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like some crazy stuff goes on at Isetti Ranch. And there's like these photos out there of these tiny little orbs like floating around these people, and like there's other pictures and these tiny little orbs have people inside them.
What?
And they're like flying. And here, let me pull them up if I can like find some.
Yeah.
Because they're just, and like these pictures are not tampered with. These aren't like fake. This is like
Where did you say Isetti Ranch?
Isetti
was?
Ranch.
Isetti?
Let's see. Isetti Ranch is
that in
it's in Washington.
Washington? Okay.
Yeah, so just north side Long Beach.
Maybe we go check it out. Bag us a werewolf.
Yeah, you can actually contact the guy who owns it, and I think you can do tours.
Oh,
He'll take you.
dang.
That's where all like these photos come from. But like, let's see. I don't know about this one, but like, that's what it looks like.
Whoa.
It looks like just a bunch of bugs at first.
Yeah, then
But
they
then,
have
like-
kind of like people shapes.
Right. There's that one. Let's see. That's like a UFO photo from there. Like legit. It's like
Huh. That's
stuff
crazy.
like that. It's
Yeah.
like, and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's real, but I don't know.
I mean, you know, could they be visitors? Could they be tourists from another dimension, like a Mothman?
Is it a window area?
A window area?
It
I
could
mean,
be.
it could be. I mean, so you got those photos. I think, Jasmine, you found these photos. Was doing some research. Is it the Rosendale Valley in England?
Yeah, you and I think, have the same picture on our phones right now.
Oh.
They're John Hyatt's fairy photos.
Yeah.
Can I see?
Yes.
Check this out.
Those look exactly the same as the ones at
Yeah,
Isetti Ranch. That's so weird.
Yeah, this guy, I guess he's a lecturer for the Manchester Metropolitan University, and he was just taking pictures. He's like 53, and
I'm just getting mind blown.
he took some like just pictures, and he was blowing them up to look at the details,
Mhm.
and he just found like these weird like little winged people in the back, and he's just like, yeah, I don't know what they are, man, like. And people are like, oh, are they doctored? He's like, what do I got to do? Like, I'm 53 years old. I'm a teacher at like
Right.
a school. Like, why am I trying to, why would I doctor these?
Yeah.
So
He insists that the photos are genuine and haven't been altered in any ways. They were taken. There's multiple photos, and they were taken over a span of 2 years. So it wasn't like a one-time thing.
Okay.
It was like a constant thing. He said that like they don't look like bugs. Like he says he went and took pictures of flies and gnats and stuff, but they don't look the same.
Mhm.
And he says that the message to people is to approach them with an open mind. I think it's one of those situations where you need to believe to see. Fun fact about this guy, though, he was also a member of the Three Johns punk band in the 80s and 90s.
yeah,
But I think what's most interesting about this, and I wish I wasn't so skeptical about him, he's not just like a professor at the university, okay? He's the director of Manchester Institute for Research and Innovation in Art and Design. So
Oh.
it's highly possible
Oh,
that
Maybe.
these are fake.
I mean, he is one of these three guys. Yeah, I've never heard of this. Let's see what they sound like.
Copyright, be careful.
Yeah, I'll play.
We got a good
We got
15
10
seconds.
seconds.
15 seconds.
15.
53, 2, 1.
I like that beat though.
Fairies.
Just picture this guy out in the woods taking pictures.
Listening to this.
Yeah.
That's why the fairies came out.
This is very hunting music. There we
Yeah.
go. That was 22 seconds, but what the heck.
Nah, I believe it. I believe those are real. I do.
I mean,
Alright.
they are pretty dope photos.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty, and they look like the Escalade Ranch photos.
Isetti.
Yeah.
Escalade.
It's crazy too. Like
Looks like the Habanero Ranch.
yeah, habaneros. They're spicy fairies. It's crazy too, like because if they can be photographed, because there's the old timey way to see fairies, whereas if you find a rock with like a natural hole in the middle that was made by like water or like over time like grinding away, if you held it up to your eye and if you went to like a secluded meadow or like anywhere that had like a creek, there'd be a chance that you could see fairies.
Yeah, whoa.
And it's crazy too because the cameras are kind of like mechanical rocks with a hole in it. Do we have a
Hold on,
ghostly
let's pause, I
apparition?
guess. What's going on?
In Coraline, there's a rock with a hole in it, and you see through it, and there are fairies.
Oh, whoa.
Nice.
Neil
Whoa.
Gaiman at it again.
Dang,
He knows his shit.
that guy.
And we're back.
Hey everybody, we're back talking about Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
Read his stuff. He's awesome. He does a lot of fairy stuff too. So
He is pretty dope.
yeah, but yeah, that's kind of crazy that I mean, you can maybe photograph them.
I was gonna say though, as far as where fairies live,
Yes.
I got fairy circles.
Yeah.
I didn't read anything about that.
They're like patches of grass that just like wither away, but it's like a perfect circle. And it's
Crop
just,
circle.
Oh.
but they stay for like 25 to 75 years, and then they just
I do know
disappear.
what that
Yeah.
is.
It's weird.
It's crazy too. Is like rings of mushrooms are known where they kind of hang out too.
Really?
Yeah, like perfect rings of mushrooms, or anywhere in the forest where this is crazy. I was reading this in my little fairy book. Bluebell flowers hang out. You can see fairies.
Okay.
Yeah, just the fact that it's bluebell.
Yeah.
They catfish us.
Our audience won't get that reference.
Yeah, and they never will. And I guess the best times to see him is dawn, noon, dusk.
All the time.
Yeah. Or midnight with a full moon. And tonight's a full moon.
That's
Whoa!
So-
Fairy hunting!
Yeah. Play that funky song again. Go hunting for some fairies.
I know how to find them now.
Yeah. And if you do want to approach fairies, don't wear iron. They're not a big fan of it.
But we have iron in our blood.
Oh, no wonder we can't see them. Dang. Too much B4. But what's crazy, too, is it's interesting about iron because we were talking earlier about, like, they kidnap babies and they interchange them with changelings.
Mm-hmm.
And changelings are said to be, like, old fairies
Mm-hmm.
that, like, want to live out the rest of their lives just chilling and, like, eating, like, bread and milk and stuff. But a way to see if it's a changeling is, like, to put iron on them.
Whoa.
And then it'll be like they like scream out in pain and they
Really?
freak out. Yeah. So I guess iron's like a big thing for fairies, a big no-no.
Holy
But
crap.
I guess it's good if you want
Good
to
to
keep
know.
like evil fairies away, because
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, don't wear iron with the good fairies, but if it's a bad fairy, like put that ish on, put your
Throw
iron suit on,
Put
Throw
your
a block
armor on.
iron at their head.
throw a train at them.
That'll stop them.
That'll
Like
stop 'em.
good old fashioned witch hunt. Throw a block of iron at their head, and if they pass out, that means they're a fairy.
I knew it all along.
I don't know if you guys have any more information, but I have my incredible Reddit story that I would
Ooh.
love to share with you because I honestly am on the fence about whether or not this is real, because you'll see why I think it's fake, but at the same time you'll see why I think it might be real.
Okay.
All right, hit us
Because-
with it.
This comes from Blue Rainbow on Reddit. If you are listening to this, I found your old comments.
We found you.
So, the title of the post in question is has anyone had any real experiences with fairies,
Mhm.
right? And it was just that. And so this
And somebody wrote, I went to an Elton John concert one time.
Blue Rainbow says, the nature spirits. I have tons of fairy stories, but I will tell you that my son started seeing them around the age of 6. And she says that when her son was saying that he was seeing all these fairies, she didn't know what a fairy was.
Mhm.
Okay? And then she thought that he was just a really imaginative child. She said she never discouraged him from imagining things. But one day, the kid comes to her and her husband and says, all right, the fairies are going to bring us a gift. Do you want to see it? And they're like, fine, let's go to his room and let's check this out. And they're just sitting there looking at this patch on the carpet, and then just rocks start appearing. Just
Yeah.
like,
Oh.
just appear. And buttons. She says buttons. And then
Oh, dang.
and she says that the fairies lived with them for many years.
What?
Okay.
And so like, and that was where that comment ended. And then somebody was like, "Yo, give us the scoop. You
Yo,
have like more?"
You can't drop that and just
Right?
walk away.
And then somebody asked for photos, and they said, "Oh, I don't share those photos publicly."
Okay.
They're
Which-
nudes.
So okay, so I don't know. Like again, that's like okay.
Yeah.
But then, did you ever attempt to document this? Oh yes, my journals. I have many journals and notes. These things happened over 20 years ago, so now the notes and journals are sitting in storage. It's what we learned that was most important. And it's like
The power of friendship.
okay, and she keeps doing this type of stuff, like leading people on.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of think it's fake, but like it gets more interesting, cause let's see. Here's a quote from one of her journals. She says that children have always been considered sacred by the fairy people. The rearing of the young is a time when great spiritual understanding grows. Training for the Fae race begins in infancy. From the moment a baby can speak, they are trained to use their words with careful intention. Reason being that sound and the word are considered to be most holy. Children are asked to think carefully about the words they are saying or using, because a word is not just a simple sound, but it is a movement, a direction of energy. So basically, there's a lot more to this.
Is the fairy order the Jedi order?
No, basically, like, the way they're able to use magic is by having full understanding of the intent behind their words. So, like, you know, there's always, like, that, like, belief. If you believe strong enough, like, crazy
Yeah.
things can happen. So, like, basically, fairies aren't necessarily magic, but
Yeah.
they're, like, trained to use their words in special ways.
Yeah, it's like the magic spells. It's the I think I want to say it's not the words you're saying, it's how you say them and how you understand what you're saying with the words that
Right.
give it the power.
Right.
Oh, it's kind of interesting.
Another person asked, I agree. Bluebell, can you share, or Blue Rain?
Oh, no.
I'm slipping up.
It's all coming back.
I agree. Blue Rainbow, can you share any more experiences? Oh dear, yes, of course. See, every single one starts off similar. Let's see. But I don't want to bore people. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. They said, apparently they helped a kid, they helped her son when he was getting bullied at school. And he was like getting picked on by this dude at school, and then the fairies were like, we're gonna help you out. And so the fairies started
Training him.
No, not quite. But they like
Giving him powers.
they like were dancing up like towards the ceiling.
Yeah.
And this girl was like, oh, what's that? It's like a little naked man. He's dancing up there. Because I guess they're naked. But then when all the kids
no
looked
wonder
up...
you can't share the photos publicly.
Let's see. And when all the kids looked up, it was like a bunch of little naked men dancing around, okay?
This is taking a turn.
Let's see. The kids start freaking out. And then, because it was a Catholic school, so the nun was all like,
Stop.
it was like, this isn't happening. Like, this isn't real. So, like, they all ran out of the classroom, they come back in, right? And they all agreed that they all saw these naked men. And then the nun was like, it was just your imagination, because I guess the nun didn't see it.
Oh, man.
Let's see, hold on. I guess they showed up again on the teacher's desk. And they start dancing around.
How does this help him from not being bullied? I don't understand.
I guess it really shook the bullies up.
I was gonna say, I feel like this would get him beat up more.
Well, I guess he was telling kids at school he was seeing fairies and they didn't believe him.
Oh.
And so like the fairies showed up and started dancing. So
oh man, this is
They're, like,
wild.
twerking on the desk.
yeah.
It's like
Well,
that.
here's a direct quote. What does she say? She says something. The kids stopped and looked up, and there was not just one of these little guys, but a whole bunch of them dancing and shaking their booties on the pipes.
Oh man.
So, And then she says the particular stones they were given by the fairies were like semi-precious stones, like turquoise and rose quartz and stuff like that. But she never understood the reason they gave them so many buttons.
Yeah.
So they ended up giving buttons to like this medicine woman who said that she would keep them safe.
Okay.
But one time they gave her a silver ball. Okay, and this is like, what? So they were like, I don't understand the significance of the silver ball. And the fairies were saying, go to the park and plant it underneath this certain tree. And the reason being was that the whole, like, a universe is basically this silver ball, and it's planted underneath the tree. It's like a tree of life metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
So they planted the silver ball underneath this tree in the park. But it was like a metaphor. And so, like, I guess there's like years and years of this stuff. There's so much of it, I can't even go through it.
That's crazy, man.
But just
She
like,
needs to write a book.
yeah.
yeah,
And
but
she's out giving all this info for free on Reddit. She'd be making some money.
yeah. So, I don't know. I thought that was interesting because I was like, this is really weird. But also, all the time, she always says, like, I didn't understand it at the time, but now I do. But it's, like, usually pretty basic stuff. And it's, like, I don't know. Like, the Tree of Life, like, I don't know anybody who's not heard of a Tree of Life.
Yeah.
Like, even, like, my dad and my mom and my sister knows. And, like, I wouldn't say that they're well-versed in any kind of mythology.
Yeah, it's just
So-
it's like a common idea.
Yeah, she
that-
was like, I had no idea what a Tree of Life was. And it's like, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, lady, I think you're pulling our leg.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
That was a wild ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we'll kind of start closing this episode to a close. Bringing this episode to a close.
Closing the episode.
I will say I had remembered this funny story when we were researching fairies and the ideas of like little people that like show up, and I remember, I want to say I was in 4th or 3rd grade.
Did you see a fairy?
What
I
did it
did
look
not,
like?
but I heard a kid tell me. Well, the kid told me that he thought he saw something.
Whoa.
So, I want to say his name was maybe Andy.
Grammar?
Oh, what if I went to school with Andy Grammer?
I don't think you did.
Oh, that would be wild.
He's like 8
but
years older than us.
he was saying he spent the night at his friend's house, and his friend had a bunk bed because his older brother had they used to share it. Then his brother got a room or moved away because I think his parents were split. But he went over to his friend's house to spend the night, and he was in the top bunk, and he woke up. He heard like a noise, so he woke up and he looked down, and like on the shelf on the wall across from the bunk bed was a little person sitting there.
Nope.
Wild.
Bye.
But not just any person, a little cowboy
What?
that was glowing like blue.
What?
Yeah. And like he tried to wake his friend up by like kind of dropping stuff down the side of the bunk bed
Uh-huh.
to wake him up, but he couldn't, and he was just like staring, and then the cowboy noticed him.
It was Woody.
Maybe.
Sounds like Indian in a cupboard.
Yeah, Indian in a cupboard. meets-
Oh my gosh. Your friend's name is Andy and he saw a cowboy and that's Woody. It's literally Toy Story.
Whoa. What if we're all just metaphors in a Pixar movie? We're all just metaphors for the Tree of Life. But the cowboy like eventually saw that my friend was looking at him, so he got up and just like walked through the wall away.
There's a
And
snake in his boot.
yeah, so
That's weird.
It's a weird story. Maybe fairies change their clothes with the times, but they're like they're like 100 years behind us. So modern day clothes to them are cowboy clothes.
That's why they're wearing robes and stuff and back in, like
Yeah.
100 years ago.
Yeah, they just have really bad fashion sense. They're eternally young, but like eternally like not in the right era. But that was our attempt to talk about fairies.
That went a lot better than I thought it would, to
It
be
really-
honest.
yeah.
Yeah, it was,
It
I
had
mean,
some coherence.
Lots of
to it.
information, but I don't think we went too crazy today.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean, the whole point of it is to get crazy and get a little.
But
nuts.
I mean, like organizational wise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, I think we stayed on track pretty well.
Yeah, well, I'll let you guys know a little behind the scenes. Pull the curtain back. We took a week off because we did 3 weeks of Mothman, and that was wild.
That
Like
was too
I
much.
devoted a lot of my time to Mothman research.
Yeah.
So we thought, you know what, we'll take a break. We survived Mothman. We survived Mothman prophecies.
Just wait until Bigfoot, man.
Oh man, it's coming. It's
Is
coming,
it?
baby.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
coming.
Eventually, in the near future, in the far off distance.
Of 2019.
But yeah, we want to thank you guys for joining and listening to us talk about fairies, gnomes, goblins, and all the weird little people that may or may not be hanging around. If you want to tweet at us, you can tweet at me at AlexDaikaiju. Talk about, paranormal stuff, Godzilla stuff. Like, I'm down to talk. And if I wanted to reach you.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter as well at Jasmine Mayw. That's JasmineMaew. Let me know that you listened to the show. I like to know where my followers come from.
Definitely.
It's cool to know when we have listeners. If you have any suggestions, any comments, any questions, tag us.
Yeah.
We'll respond.
And what about you, fella?
You can find me at EJ Workshop on Twitter.
Tweeter.
Please tweet me, because I'm actually getting the cold shoulder of the group. People don't like me on Twitter.
Yeah?
I don't know. They like Jasmine and they like Alex, but for some reason they don't give me none.
Give
I've
me
actually
some love, guys.
I've been
Yeah.
unfollowed by some of
Really?
by
Yeah?
some of our followers.
Wow. Well, guys,
Oh.
Eli's the one who runs the Instagram page, so all credit goes to him for that. He
Yeah.
runs the Facebook, he
We-
runs the
we-
Instagram.
I don't know. Sometimes we forget to mention, but we do have an Instagram. We mentioned it put the photos up on the gram. But we do have a Cryptid Campfire Instagram. We do have we have a Facebook as well. Eli usually runs that. He puts up cryptid facts. We put little memes up every so often. So definitely follow that and follow Eli. Give him some love on the Twitters. Just say hello. How are you?
No, you.
No, you. Tag him in a big Chungus meme for fun's sake.
Oh no.
But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Oh, and if you have any suggestions, you can always tweet us, Instagram us, or email us at cryptidcampfirepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week when we have something even crazier to talk about.
Bye.